edit any of these pages. But then the idea is, obviously the net needs to be worked out. You can also invite collaborators once you like finalize the account. So once I like finalize the account, part of the initial flow that we came up with was we don't want people to have to create an account before they can start making a book. So the way we have this set up now is you can, when they hit the get started, if you notice they didn't have to put in their email or anything, they just put in some information about the book, and then they can start making their pages and stuff. And then when they click this finalize account and save book, on the back end, we're actually creating a new user and migrating that data over to the new user to basically store or like update what their account.
Yeah, we sort of took some code from Devise. They sort of have the notion of a guest user on their wiki, and we just sort of made that work for what we needed to do. So it was creating like a guest user and then also creating the associated like contributor book, and, like assigning all those, and then we have a call. Basically we store like a guest user ID in the session, and then when we have like a helper method that's current or guest user, that's basically checking to see if there's a current user, and if there is, then it like wipes out the guest user ID and then migrates all of that data over to the current user. So that's how we were able to like keep track of a book that you're working on without actually having you create an account.
So to show that, so basically what was good, the big part about Clipcake that Wade and I, the reason why we're kind of pursuing this app is because it was a good opportunity for us to like pair on things basically. Since most of the projects we're on are different. So that's a good example of one where Wade kind of took a stab at first, got it working, and then we kind of sat together, came up with some ideas for refactoring, and then Wade went back to the drawing board and kind of did it again, and abstracted things into like separate classes. And I think that, so that one is right here. So we have this nice class to handle it, as well as the contributor invitations. So those are just some examples of where, this project being kind of just a fun one was a good chance for us to do some things that ordinarily we wouldn't get the chance to do. But, okay. So then, basically, so now this is linked to my account. So nothing really changes other than that. Now this is stored on my account. I'm signed in, so if I sign back in, obviously that information is now on my account, which I just totally blanked on when I saved this, what email I used. Well then, can't access that account again. So just kind of highlighting some of the, so I won't need to dive into the designs here in 1 second, but just kind of showing the, let's do the sessions new page. So I kind of mentioned this concept of the gem to build the components. So this is kind of how this works. Rather than writing, so the original, I'll show the original load buddy code that I kind of abstracted this from.
Load buddy was a client app we did.
So this is like the normal code. So you have like a section, a bunch of divs, and what's that?
Old man can't read back there.
Old man Dave.
All right. So I mean, this is kind of our standard. Like when we're creating a component, you end up with like some nested content, which is just the way HTML is. It's boxes on boxes, right? So, but like, there's some dependencies, a lot of dependencies in here from the HTML to the CSS. So like session form is a dependent, that class is a dependency because it's linked to a style in the CSS. So if for whatever reason that CSS changes and that class changes, we'll also have to change it here. If we don't, then the site will break. So that's an issue. It makes it harder to change the application. So the vision behind my gem is that instead of having dependencies on class names like that, you basically can just use a helper and say, all right, I want to build this card, and if you need to add a class, like in this case, I'm adding a particular class here because I wanted to do something unique to the card in general is is, for this particular card is going to do something a little different than the normal card. And then basically you can nest in, okay, now we have the card header and the card title, and so this process will generate the same HTML, but the CSS is not in this app, is not in Clipcake, it's in Launch, so it's in the gem. And so the gem handles both what the HTML is and what the CSS is. So if I ever want to change like that class name, I can do it there, and I never have to touch the app code.
Where, ignore this white space because that's just how it's zooming in.
Really bothering you, isn't it?
A little bit.
Version 0 auto.
So, like, one thing that a lot of those other bookmaking things didn't have, and Ryan mentioned that he liked, was like this top area. So this would, like, I wanted it to be obvious, like, who the book's for, because this is like gift for someone, and you're inviting a lot of people into this app who maybe they just got an email saying like, come make this book with us. So like, just so they know right away, and then like how much more time they have, and like kind of like pushing the deadline a little bit so they get this done rather than waiting until last minute. But like this area, still need to think about, because I'm sure there's like some little features that we might need to include. But I'd rather like build up to it rather than like take it all away here. So this would be like this is what a captain or like the person who starts the project would see. They would like handle the cover and then inviting contributors, which like if you were invited, I think those two would go away and they wouldn't even see those. As it would be just like a couple less options and simplifying this area a little bit more. But like table of contents would be like you'd be able to see like who was invited, and if they completed it, or if they're like still working on it, or like my name doesn't have anything, so that means I haven't started. I'm slacking. And then like you'll see how many more pages you have left, and like you can assign those to either have like these people do more, or assign new or like invite new people to contribute. And then there would be like a photos area where you could just like upload photos and then maybe select which ones you want where, which is a huge chunk that still needs to be worked out, as with most of this. But I liked keeping like most of the action items over here versus like a lot of them had like the photos and pages thing down here, which I don't know. I'm like I liked keeping all the main action items over in one.
Clothes in my closet.
Maybe, yeah. And then layout. I think what I think we should do for like when you upload the photos, I think it'd be nice if like it auto-populated and then you would like fill out your text and you would place it in, and then like you'd have the option of going in here and maybe selecting a different one based on how many pictures you had. And then pages. We might actually not need that because that basically does a table of contents. So maybe like the person who was invited to collaborate would really only see these three. So it'd be like super streamlined for them, which I think would make someone more likely to like do this gift if it's like super easy and they don't have like a lot to look at and a lot to figure out. But, yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah. So kind of next up, on the development side, we're going to do this whole thing in Angular, so that we can make the content with the page dynamic, which is obviously going to be important. So some challenges that we have ahead are figuring out image cropping, how to dynamically position images based on their dimensions. So if it's a horizontal image, maybe it makes more sense in one certain spot, whereas a vertical image might make sense somewhere else. So kind of like smartly positioning images on the layout automatically, and leaving a good amount of white space for like a message. Oh yeah, you should show those designs.
So while you're switching here, I mean, it seems like, I guess I didn't look at the other apps, like the collaboration seems like more the focal point of this one. Like you have pages assigned to people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That seems like kind of
the captain sets up how many pages each person gets.
Yeah.
So when they start sending invites, they're going to put like 1 page, 2 page, whatever. And then when that gets set, it creates the pages in the back end, which they just don't have any content. And then as people come in and start adding photos and text, that gets filled into the pages as content.
Mm-hmm.
And so the back end for that is kind of like set up in terms of being able to add content to pages and setting. We're using inheritance for the photo versus text, as well as for the different contributor types, and I think that's been a good way. I think Wade has kind of picked up some. I don't know, picked up anything from that?
Yeah, we're doing it on the page type too.
On the page type, being cover versus like a regular middle page versus a back cover, they have different properties about them. The cover is only accessible to the captain. Well, it's only editable by the captain. So, cool. Did you show the? Oh, yeah, there you go.
So this, I basically gave myself, I guess a event to kind of focus, because I didn't want to find stock photos. I feel like it would be easier to just take some of my college photos. So I guess I was pretending it was like for my best friend's birthday. So this would be like a tribute page where you can say like, hey, we decided to make this book for you.
So the tribute page would be like the first page. They open it and they see like kind of why this book is being made for them, or kind of like a message.
Yeah, and it'd be something that'd be handled by the person setting up the project. So they would ideally have this page done before inviting people. Another page was like, again, this white space is bothering me, but whatever. This would be like, if I was assigned a page, I would upload these photos and write the message. Same with this one, for someone who wants to keep it super simple, one picture, and then a message. And one thing, me and Ryan talked about this today, like having these like 3 maybe like inputs. So you'd have like your greeting, something I noticed like with the book that Ryan made for Hannah and like the one Brian made for his parents, like people always put like different, every single person had like a different message. It wasn't like Dear Kathleen, or like, it was always like nicknames or like, goofy I don't know, things, goofy things. And then you'd have like your main text, story, whatever, and then you'd have like your signature, which also like I feel like people get creative with. But having those kind of separate.